The explosions lit up the night sky over Arcturus Prime. General Maria Castellanos stood on the command tower, watching the enemy ships retreat once again. Smoke rose from the battlefield where thousands of alien soldiers had tried to break through the human defense lines. They had failed, just like the last 5 times. "General, the casualty reports are in," her second-in-command, Colonel James Park, said behind her. "We lost 83 soldiers. The Caldrith lost over 2,000. Maria nodded slowly. Every human life lost felt like a knife in her chest. But she had learned long ago that war was about mathematics. Cold, brutal mathematics. The Caldrith Empire had more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Humans had to be smarter. They had to make every enemy death cost more than they could afford. "Send the families my personal condolences," Maria said, "and double the guard rotations. They'll try again soon." She walked down from the tower, her boots heavy on the metal stairs. 3 years. She had been defending this planet for 3 years against an empire that ruled 47 star systems. An empire that had never lost a war. Until they met humanity. Maria was 46 years old. Her face carried scars from a dozen battles. Her black hair was streaked with gray. She had started as a simple soldier, crawling through mud and blood on Earth's last world war. Now she commanded the most important defensive position in human space. The soldiers she passed saluted her. She returned each salute with respect. These men and women had volunteered to stand between their families and an alien empire that wanted to enslave every human alive. They were the best of humanity. They deserved a leader who would not waste their lives. In her office, Maria poured herself a small glass of whiskey. Earth whiskey, saved for moments when she needed to remember home. She looked at the star map on her wall. The Caldrith Empire was shown in red. It was massive, spanning across the galaxy like a cancer. Humanity's territory was a tiny blue dot on the edge of the map. 15 years ago, the Caldrith had arrived at Earth with a simple message: submit or die. Humanity's answer had been simple too. No. The war that followed had been brutal. Earth lost colonies. Millions died. But humans learned fast. They studied every battle, every defeat, every small victory. They adapted. They survived. And slowly, impossibly, they started winning. Maria had been part of that transformation. She had fought in the Battle of New Horizon where 10,000 humans held off 50,000 Caldrith warriors. She had survived the siege of Proxima Station, where they had nothing to eat for 3 months but still refused to surrender. She had learned that humans had one advantage over every other species in the galaxy. Humans were too stubborn to know when they should give up. A message alert blinked on her screen. It was from Earth Command, marked urgent. She opened it and felt her blood run cold. "General Castellanos, our intelligence has intercepted Caldrith communications. Galaxy King Vorthax has ordered your assassination. Multiple attempts expected within the next week. Recommend you evacuate to a secure location immediately." Maria read the message twice, then deleted it. Evacuate, run away. That would destroy her soldiers' morale faster than any enemy attack. Besides, she had survived assassination attempts before. 3 times on Earth, twice in space stations. She was still here. She pulled up the file on Galaxy King Vorthax. The alien ruler was ancient by human standards, over 200 years old. He had conquered species after species, building his empire through fear and overwhelming force. His image showed a massive creature, almost 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and armor that looked like it was grafted onto his skin. His eyes were cold, without mercy. According to intelligence reports, Vorthax had never personally lost a battle. He saw defeat as impossible. The human resistance had made him look weak in front of his empire. That was dangerous. A humiliated tyrant was the most violent kind. Maria stood and walked to her window. Outside, soldiers were repairing defensive walls. Engineers were setting up new cannon positions. Medical teams were treating the wounded. Everyone was working together, human cooperation at its finest. This was what the Caldrith could never understand. They ruled through fear and force. Humans fought through loyalty and love for each other. She thought about the message. Vorthax wanted her dead. He probably thought killing her would break human resistance. He was wrong. Her death would only make humanity angrier. But she did not plan to die, not yet. Not while her people still needed her. "Computer access defensive protocols," she said. "I want every entry point to this base monitored. I want DNA scanners on every door. I want atmospheric sensors looking for non-human biochemistry. And I want it done quietly. If assassins were coming, she would be ready. Let them come. Let them try. She had not survived this long by being easy to kill. Maria finished her whiskey and set down the glass. Tomorrow she would inspect the northern defense line. Tonight she would review every security measure in her base. She would not sleep much. She never did anymore. Sleep was a luxury for people who did not carry the weight of an entire species on their shoulders. She looked one more time at Vorthax's image on her screen. The Galaxy King thought he could frighten her. He thought humans were weak because they were young. He would learn. Humans did not scare easily, and if he sent assassins to kill her, she would make sure he regretted it. The Shikari moved through the darkness like ghosts, 5 of them the best assassins in the known galaxy. For 300 years, no target had survived them. Tonight would be no different. Their leader was called Jark. He was a shadow master, trained since birth to kill. His species had evolved in the dark caves of their homeworld, developing natural abilities to move without sound, to blend with darkness itself. Behind him, his team spread out through the military base. Each one was a specialist. Each one was perfect at their job. Kravix, the poisoner, moved through the ventilation system. Her small body could fit through spaces no human could reach. She carried toxins that could kill with a single breath. Thrawn, the blade dancer, walked among human soldiers using holographic disguise. His forearms carried weapons so sharp they could cut through steel. Mix, the mindbreaker, sat in meditation a kilometer away, her psychic powers reaching out to map every thought in the base. And Vorkal, the heavy, carried enough firepower to level a building. They had studied General Castellanos for weeks. They knew her routine, her habits, her weaknesses. Tonight she was meeting with her command staff to plan next month's defensive strategy. The meeting room was in the center of the base, surrounded by guards, protected by the best security human technology could provide. It would not be enough. Jark gave the signal. The attack began. Kravix released poison into the ventilation system of the guard barracks. Not deadly, just enough to make them sick to distract them. Thrawn walked past 3 checkpoints, his hologram showing a human colonel's face. Mix sent out a psychic pulse that made every sensor in a 50-meter radius shut down for exactly 30 seconds. Vorkal positioned himself at the building's weak point, ready to break through if needed. And Jark moved toward the meeting room like death itself. Inside the room, Maria was explaining the new defensive grid to her officers. Colonel Park was taking notes. Major Sarah Chen was asking questions about supply lines. Captain Rodriguez was reviewing tactical data. None of them saw the air shimmer near the door. Then everything happened at once. The door exploded inward. Thrawn burst through, blades flashing. Colonel Park's head left his body before anyone could react. Major Chen drew her sidearm, but Thrawn was faster. His blade found her heart. Maria moved on instinct. Years of combat training took over. She dove under the table as Jark appeared from nowhere, his blade cutting through the air where her head had been a second before. She kicked the table up, using it as a shield, buying herself precious seconds. "Assassins!" Captain Rodriguez shouted into his comm before Thrawn's blade silenced him forever. Maria's hand found the emergency panel under her desk. She slammed it. Alarms blared throughout the base. Blast doors started closing, but the assassins did not care. They had already breached the inner sanctum. Then Maria felt something in her mind. A pressure pushing against her thoughts. Mix, the psychic, was trying to invade her consciousness. Maria felt the alien presence trying to shut down her motor control, to make her body freeze so the others could finish her. But Maria had fought psychic enemies before. She had learned mental discipline from a Terran monk who taught soldiers how to resist interrogation. She built walls in her mind, brick by brick, memory by memory. She thought of her daughter's laugh, her husband's smile before he died in the war, the faces of every soldier who trusted her. The alien presence hit those walls and recoiled. "Impossible," Mix whispered from her distant position. "Her mind is too strong." Maria grabbed a ceremonial sword from the wall. It was from Earth's Japanese culture, gifted to her by a delegation from Tokyo. She had never expected to use it. Now it felt right in her hand. Jark attacked again, his movements almost too fast to see. But Maria did not need to see everything. She needed to predict. She watched his shoulders, his balance, the way he shifted weight. Every fighter had patterns, even the best ones. She parried his strike and kicked him in what she hoped was a vulnerable spot. He grunted and backed away. For the first time, his confidence wavered. This human was supposed to be easy, soft, weak, She was none of those things. The blast doors finished closing. Now they were sealed inside together. Maria's personal guards were trying to break through from outside. She could hear them cutting through the door. But it would take minutes. She had seconds. "Stand down and you live," Maria said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Jark laughed. "We are Shikari. We do not fail." "First time for everything," Maria replied. Theron came at her from the side. She had been waiting for it. She threw a chair at him, tangling his blades, then stabbed forward with the sword. The blade found a gap in his armor. Purple blood sprayed across the floor. Vorkal decided to end this. He stepped forward, raising his massive weapon. But Maria had spent 3 years learning the layout of this base. She knew every wire, every pipe, every structural weakness. She shot the ceremonial sword like a javelin. It hit the explosive charge she had hidden in the ceiling during last month's security upgrade. The explosion was small but precise. Part of the ceiling collapsed on Vorkal, tons of metal and concrete crushing him. Kravix tried to escape through the ventilation shaft. Maria grabbed a fallen guard's weapon and fired into the vent. The poisoner's scream was brief. Now it was just Jark, the Shadow Master and the human general. He looked around at his dead team, at this human who should have been helpless, and for the first time in his long life, he felt fear. "Your Galaxy King sent you to kill me," Maria said, circling him. But he forgot something important. Humans do not die easy. Jark attacked with everything he had. His blade danced through the air in patterns designed to be impossible to defend. But Maria did not defend. She attacked through his attack, accepting a cut across her arm to get inside his guard. Her hand found his throat. Her combat knife found his chest. He fell, purple blood pooling beneath him. The doors burst open. Guards rushed in, weapons ready. They stopped staring at the scene. Their general stood among 5 dead assassins, bleeding from a dozen wounds but alive. "Get me a medical kit," Maria said calmly, "and get me a secure communication line. I need to send a message." The medical team worked quickly on Maria's wounds. She had cuts on her arms, a deep gash across her ribs, and bruises everywhere. The doctor wanted to put her in the medical bay for a week. She gave him 3 hours. "General, you need rest," the doctor protested. "I need to send a message," Maria replied. Around her, soldiers were cleaning up the meeting room. 5 alien bodies lay where they had fallen. The Shikari assassins had been feared across the galaxy for centuries. Now they were just corpses on her floor. Colonel Sarah Jenkins, who had taken over as second-in-command after Park's death, approached carefully. "General, Earth Command is requesting a full report. They want to know how you survived. The Shikari have never failed before. They failed today," Maria said simply. She looked at the bodies. "Sarah, I need you to do something. And you are not going to like it. What do you need?" "Get me a blade." "A sharp one." An hour later, the command staff stood in shocked silence. Maria had personally decapitated all 5 Shikari assassins. Their heads now sat in a specialized container designed to preserve biological matter during space travel. The container would keep them from rotting for months. "General, with all respect, what are you doing?" Jenkins asked. "Vorthak sent me a message," Maria said, sealing the container. "He tried to kill me. He wanted to scare humanity. Now I'm sending him a message back." She pulled out a piece of paper and began writing. Her hand was steady despite her injuries. She wrote in Kaldrith script, which she had learned during the war. The message was simple. "You missed. My turn." She placed the note in the container with the heads and sealed it. Then she called for the communications officer. "I need an automated courier ship," she said. "Fast engine, basic navigation, no weapons. Program it to head directly to the Kaldrith throne world. Do not stop for anything." "General," Jenkins said quietly, "you are going to start a war." "We are already at war," Maria replied, "but we have been fighting defensively. Playing careful, being the smaller species that just wants to survive. That ends now." She looked at all her officers. They were scared. She could see it in their eyes. They had lost friends today. They knew what was coming. "Vorthax thinks we are weak," Maria continued. "He thinks he can kill our leaders and we will fall apart. He does not understand humans. When you hurt us, we do not break. We get angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in this galaxy." Major Tom Williams, the intelligence officer, spoke up. "General, our projections show that if you send this, Vorthax will launch a full-scale invasion. He has never been humiliated like this. He will bring everything he has." "Good," Maria said. Let him come. Let him bring his entire fleet to one planet. Let him concentrate all his forces in one place where we can hurt him. Better that than fighting him across a dozen worlds. You are using yourself as bait, Jenkins realized. I am using myself as bait, Maria confirmed. And when he comes, we will show him what happens when you wake up humanity. The courier ship launched 3 hours later. It was small and fast, carrying nothing but its precious cargo. The heads of 5 legendary assassins and a message written by a human general who refused to be intimidated. News of the assassination attempt spread quickly through human space. The story grew with each telling. Their general had fought off 5 Shikari assassins alone. She had killed them all with her bare hands. She had sent their heads back to the Galaxy King as a warning. Most of the stories were exaggerated, but Maria did not correct them. Morale among human forces soared. Recruitment offices were flooded with volunteers. If their general could defeat the legendary Shikari, then humanity could win this war. The Kaldrith reaction was different. When word reached their military, panic spread. The Shikari were supposed to be unstoppable. If a single human could kill all 5, what did that say about the rest of humanity? Some Kaldrith commanders began questioning their emperor's strategy. Some began wondering if this war was worth fighting. But the message had not reached Vorthax yet. The courier ship was still traveling through space, carrying its grim package toward the throne world. Maria spent the next 2 weeks preparing. She knew what was coming. Vorthax would not just send another assassination team. He would come himself. He would bring an armada that could crack planets. He would try to make an example of her, of Arcturus Prime, of all humanity. She worked 20-hour days reviewing every defensive position, every weapon system, every escape route. She sent civilian populations to underground bunkers. She called in every favor, every ally, every resource Earth Command could spare. We are going to make Arcturus Prime into a fortress, she told her staff. When Vorthax arrives, he is going to bleed for every meter of ground. We are going to make him pay a price so high that the rest of his empire will question whether humans are worth fighting. Jenkins pulled her aside one evening. Maria, you know we cannot win this. Not against his full fleet. We do not need to win, Maria said. We need to survive. We need to hurt him so badly that he thinks twice before attacking another human world. We need to show the galaxy that humans are not prey. And if we all die? Maria looked at her friend and smiled sadly. Then we die standing up. That is more than most species can say. The courier ship reached the Kaldrith throne world on the 18th day. It broadcast a simple message requesting an audience with the Galaxy King. When the guards boarded it, they found no crew, just a container with 5 heads and a note. They brought it to Vorthax in his throne room in front of his entire court. Hundreds of alien nobles and military commanders watched as the Emperor opened the container. The silence was absolute. Vorthax stared at the heads of his best assassins. He read the note. His face turned a darker shade of purple. His 4 hands clenched into fists. Prepare the fleet, he said, his voice shaking with rage. All of it. I want 500 warships. I want 400,000 soldiers. I want enough firepower to turn that planet into dust. Your Majesty, one advisor dared to speak. Perhaps we should consider. I will personally lead this assault. Vorthax roared. I will crush this human general myself. I will make her watch as I destroy everything she loves, and then I will mount her head next to these. The courier ship, its mission complete, self-destructed in orbit. But its message had been delivered. War was coming to Arcturus Prime. The biggest battle humanity had ever faced was about to begin, and Maria was ready. The armada that assembled at the Kaldrith staging point was the largest fleet Vorthax had ever commanded. 500 warships, each one capable of destroying cities. 400,000 soldiers, the best warriors from across his empire. Enough weapons to conquer a dozen star systems, all of it aimed at one planet, at one human general who had dared to humiliate him. Vorthax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His armor was polished to a mirror shine. His 4 arms rested on weapons that had killed countless enemies. He was 214 years old. He had conquered 47 star systems. He had never lost a battle. This human would learn what happens to those who defied him. My lord, his fleet commander said, our scouts report that Earth has sent reinforcements to Arcturus Prime, but they are minimal. Perhaps 30 additional ships, Vorthax laughed. 30 ships against 500. The humans know they cannot win. They are just making a gesture. He turned to his assembled officers. When we arrive, I want a full orbital bombardment. I want their cities burning before we even land troops. I want General Castellanos to watch her world die before I kill her myself. The fleet entered hyperspace. The journey would take 6 days. 6 days for Vorthax to plan his victory. 6 days to imagine the human general begging for mercy that would never come. On Arcturus Prime, Maria watched the stars and knew they were coming. Long-range sensors had picked up the fleet's launch. Earth Command had sent her the data. 500 ships. It was worse than she had expected. But she had prepared for worse. Protocol Ragnarok is ready, Jenkins reported. All civilians are in the deep bunkers. All defensive positions are manned. Every soldier knows their job, Maria nodded. Protocol Ragnarok. She had developed it over the past 2 weeks working with her best tactical minds. It was named after the old Earth myth about the end of the world. Because that was what this would be. The end of their world or the end of Vorthax's confidence. What about the Northern Hemisphere? Maria asked. Rigged and ready, Major Williams confirmed. If they land there, we can trigger it remotely. Maria had spent the last 2 weeks doing something insane. She had evacuated the entire Northern Hemisphere of the planet and turned it into one massive trap. Thousands of mines, buried charges, entire cities wired to collapse. If the Kaldrith wanted that land, they would have to pay for it in blood. They will bombard us from orbit first, Jenkins said. Our shields can take some hits, but not from 500 ships. They will not bombard everything, Maria replied. Vorthax wants me alive. He wants to kill me himself. He will hit our military positions hard, but he will leave some infrastructure intact. He is arrogant. We will use that against him. Earth Command sent a final message. Reinforcements were coming, but they would take 3 weeks to arrive. Could Maria hold that long? She sent a reply. We will hold as long as we need to. On the 6th day, the Kaldrith fleet arrived. 500 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They filled the sky above Arcturus Prime, blotting out the stars. It was the most terrifying sight humanity had ever seen. Vorthax broadcast his message to the planet below. His voice boomed through every speaker, every communication device. Humans of Arcturus Prime. I am Galaxy King Vorthax. You have harbored a criminal named Maria Castellanos. She has committed crimes against my empire. Surrender her now, and the rest of you will be spared. Refuse, and every living thing on this planet will die. Maria broadcast her reply on all frequencies. She wanted every human soldier, every Kaldrith warrior to hear her words. Vorthax, you sent assassins to kill me in the dark. They failed. Now you come with an army because you are too afraid to face me alone. Come down here and take what you want, if you can. The orbital bombardment began 30 seconds later. The sky lit up with weapons fire. Kaldrith plasma cannons struck human defensive positions. Shields flared and died. Buildings exploded. The ground shook like an earthquake. But Maria had prepared for this. All critical personnel were in underground bunkers. The buildings being destroyed were mostly empty, left as decoys. Real defensive positions were hidden, camouflaged, waiting. The bombardment lasted for 3 hours. When it finally stopped, a third of the main city was in ruins, but the human defenses were mostly intact. First wave landing, Williams reported. 50,000 troops. They are heading for the Northern Hemisphere, just as you predicted. Maria watched the tactical display. Vorthax was so predictable. He wanted to land where there were resources, where there were cities to conquer. The Northern Hemisphere had both. It also had her trap. The Kaldrith troops landed in massive dropships. 50,000 alien warriors poured onto the surface, setting up command posts, securing territory. They were efficient and professional. They had done this 1,000 times before. Maria waited until they were fully committed, until they had spread out across a 100-kilometer radius, until retreat would be difficult. Then she triggered Protocol Ragnarok. The ground beneath the Kaldrith army exploded, not all at once but in a cascade. Mines detonated in sequence. Buildings that had been rigged with explosives collapsed. Entire city blocks sank into tunnels that had been secretly dug beneath them. The carefully orchestrated destruction spread like dominoes falling. In 15 minutes, Maria killed 20,000 Kaldrith soldiers, 20,000 warriors who never fired a shot. On his flagship, Vorthax watched the carnage through orbital cameras. His face went from purple to almost black with rage. Impossible, he whispered. How did they? My lord, his fleet commander said nervously. The humans had been preparing this for weeks. They turned the entire region into a trap. "Send more troops," Vorthax roared. "Send 100,000. Secure that territory." "My lord, perhaps we should—" "Send them now." The second wave launched. 100,000 Kaldrith warriors descended to the planet. They were more careful this time, scanning for traps, moving slowly. But Maria had more surprises waiting. Human soldiers appeared from hidden positions. They struck fast and hard using guerrilla tactics. They would ambush a Kaldrith patrol, kill half of them, and disappear before reinforcements arrived. They used the terrain, their knowledge of the planet, every advantage they had. The Kaldrith had superior numbers and firepower, but they were fighting on human ground by human rules, and humans had been perfecting the art of guerrilla warfare for thousands of years. By the end of the first day, Vorthax had landed 150,000 troops. He had lost 35,000 of them. The casualties were staggering. "Unacceptable. This is impossible," he said again. "They are just humans, weak, young. How are they doing this?" His advisor, a wise old Kaldrith named Zix, spoke carefully. "My lord, I believe we have underestimated them. Humans do not fight like other species. They do not value honor over victory. They do not follow the traditional rules of warfare. Then we will break them with overwhelming force," Vorthax decided. "I will land with my elite guard tomorrow. I will challenge this general to single combat. If I defeat her, their morale will collapse." "My lord, that is exactly what she wants," Zix warned. "She is baiting you." "I do not care," Vorthax said. "I will not hide in orbit while my troops die below. I am the Galaxy King. I will end this myself." On the surface, Maria received the news that Vorthax was coming down personally. She smiled grimly. "He took the bait," she said to Jenkins. "Tomorrow we kill a king." 3 days of brutal warfare had turned Arcturus Prime into a hellscape. The northern hemisphere was a crater-filled wasteland. The southern cities were battlegrounds where every street cost lives. Human defenders fought from rubble and ruins, making the Kaldrith pay for every meter of ground. Vorthax had landed 70 hours ago with his elite guard. 10,000 of his best warriors, clad in the finest armor his empire could forge. They had pushed deep into human territory, crushing resistance with overwhelming force. But the cost had been high. So terribly high. The Galaxy King stood on a hill overlooking what had once been New Seattle. Smoke rose from 1,000 fires. Bodies littered the ground, most of them his own soldiers. In 3 days, he had lost 90,000 warriors. 90,000. The humans had lost perhaps 20,000. The mathematics were impossible, unacceptable. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Where is this general who thinks she can defy me?" His scouts had been searching for Maria's position for days. She moved constantly, appearing wherever the fighting was thickest, rallying her troops, then vanishing before Kaldrith forces could respond. She was like smoke, impossible to grasp. Until now. "My lord," a scout reported, "we have found her. She is in the Central Command bunker, 10 kilometers south of here. Our intelligence says she has only a small guard force with her." Vorthax felt something he had not felt in decades. Anticipation. Finally, he would face this human who had humiliated him. Finally, he would crush the insect who had dared to challenge a god. "Prepare my armor," he commanded. "I am going to end this." 2 hours later, Vorthax and his elite guard approached the bunker. It was a fortified position, but nothing that could withstand his forces. His guards took up positions around the perimeter. Vorthax himself walked to the main entrance. A human soldier stood there, young and scared. "The general is waiting for you inside," the soldier said, his voice trembling. "She says to come alone." "Alone?" Vorthax laughed. "Does she think I am a fool?" "She says if you are truly the warrior king you claim to be, you will face her alone," the soldier continued. "Or are you afraid of one human woman?" The challenge was clear. Vorthax's pride would not let him refuse. He entered the bunker alone, his 4 hands resting on his weapons. The interior was a large space, clearly meant for meetings. At the far end, Maria Castellano stood waiting. She wore combat armor, scratched and dented from days of fighting. In her hands, she held a simple human rifle. She looked tired, small, insignificant next to his massive frame. "You wanted to meet me," Maria said calmly. "Here I am." "You are the one who sent my assassins back in pieces," Vorthax said. "You are smaller than I expected." "You are exactly as arrogant as I expected," Maria replied. Vorthax drew 2 of his swords. Each blade was as long as Maria was tall, forged from metals that could cut through tank armor. His armor was powered, enhancing his already formidable strength. He had killed opponents in single combat for 2 centuries. This would be over in seconds. I could have glassed this planet from orbit, Vorthax said, circling her. But I wanted to look into your eyes when I killed you. I wanted you to know that defying me was the last mistake you would ever make. You talk too much, Maria said, and fired her rifle. The bullets bounced off Vorthax's shields. He laughed and charged, moving with speed that should have been impossible for something his size. His blade came down like a meteor. Maria rolled aside, the sword missing her by centimeters. She came up firing, aiming for joints in his armor. A few bullets got through, drawing purple blood, but it was not enough to slow him down. The fight was brutal and one-sided. Vorthax was stronger, faster, more experienced. His reach was twice hers. Every strike he made could have killed her instantly. Maria dodged, blocked, retreated. She was playing defense and losing. Is this the best humanity can offer? Vorthax taunted. I expected more. He drove her back against a wall. His blade came down for a killing strike. Maria tried to dodge but was not fast enough. The sword caught her armor, cutting deep, throwing her across the room. She crashed into a computer console and did not get up. Vorthax walked toward her slowly, savoring his victory. Your species is weak. You will all serve my empire or die. Then Maria laughed. It was not the laugh of someone defeated. It was the laugh of someone whose plan had just worked perfectly. You really are predictable, she said, standing up slowly. Her armor had absorbed most of the impact. She was hurt but not finished. I knew you would come alone. I knew your pride would not let you refuse a challenge. I knew you would think you could beat me easily. You did not plan to win this fight, Vorthax realized. What are you? Maria pressed a button on her wrist. Her armor shifted. Panels opened. A mechanical exoskeleton emerged from beneath the standard plating, wrapping around her limbs. It was experimental technology, something Earth's engineers had been developing in secret. Suddenly, they were on even ground. Rule 1 of fighting humans, Maria said, her voice distorted by the exoskeleton's power. We cheat. She moved faster than before, the exoskeleton enhancing her speed and strength. She grabbed one of Vorthax's swords from a fallen display and attacked. Now the fight was different. Now she could match his strength. And her skill, honed through decades of combat, was every bit as good as his. They fought like gods, their weapons striking sparks from each other. The bunker shook with the force of their blows. Vorthax was shocked, angry. How dare this human match him? But Maria was not trying to match him. She was studying him. Every warrior had patterns, habits, weaknesses. Even the greatest ones. Especially the greatest ones, because they had spent centuries relying on the same techniques that had always worked. She saw it. A tendency to overextend on his third strike, a slight delay when switching from his upper arms to his lower arms, a weakness in his footwork when he retreated. Maria waited for her moment. Vorthax struck high with his upper right sword. She blocked. He struck low with his lower left. She dodged. Then he struck with his upper left, the third strike, overextending just slightly. Maria caught his arm. The exoskeleton's strength let her hold him. She twisted, using leverage and technique more than power. Something in his arm broke with a wet crack. Vorthax screamed in pain and rage. He dropped one sword and grabbed her with his other 3 hands, trying to crush her. But Maria had been in close combat before. She knew how to fight dirty. She smashed her helmet into his face once, twice, 3 times. His grip loosened. She drew her combat knife and drove it into a gap in his armor, between his shoulder plates. Purple blood sprayed across both of them. Vorthax stumbled back, injured for the first time in a century. He looked at Maria with something new in his eyes. Not anger, fear. You cannot defeat me, he gasped. I am the Galaxy King. I have conquered worlds. You are a bully who has never faced anyone willing to fight back, Maria replied. She advanced on him, her blade ready. You rule through fear. But humans do not scare easily. She could kill him. One strike and the war would be over. But something stopped her. Killing him would make him a martyr. His empire would rally around his memory. But defeating him, humiliating him, letting him live with that shame, that would destroy him more than death ever could. Go back to your fleet, Maria said. Tell them what happened here. Tell them a human beat you in single combat. Tell them you are not invincible. I will return, Vorthax said, backing toward the door. I will bring more ships. More warriors. I will crush you. You will try, Maria replied, and we will still be here. Vorthax fled from the bunker. His elite guard stared in shock at their wounded king. He had lost. The invincible Galaxy King had been defeated by a single human. Within hours, the Kaldrith fleet began to withdraw. They left behind over 100,000 dead warriors. They left behind their confidence. And they left behind the legend of a human general who could not be beaten. Maria watched them go from her command center, her body aching from the fight. Jenkins stood beside her. You let him live, Jenkins said. I gave him something worse than death, Maria replied. I gave him doubt. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The invincible Galaxy King Vorthax had been defeated, not by a fleet, not by an army, but by a single human general in single combat. The story was told in 1,000 languages on 1,000 worlds. Each version was slightly different, but the core truth remained the same. Humans could fight back. Humans could win. On Arcturus Prime, the celebration lasted for 3 days. Soldiers who had fought through hell finally allowed themselves to rest. Medical teams worked around the clock treating the wounded. Engineering crews began the long process of rebuilding what had been destroyed. Maria did not celebrate. She spent those 3 days walking among her troops, visiting the injured, attending funerals for the fallen. 23,000 humans had died defending this planet. 23,000 sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters. The price of victory was written in their blood. On the 4th day, Earth Command offered her a promotion. Supreme Commander of all human military forces. She would lead humanity's armies across the stars. She would be the face of human resistance. She declined. I am a soldier, not a politician, she told them over the video link. I belong with my troops, not in a command center light years away from the fighting. But she accepted the rank of Marshal. And she accepted command of the newly formed Galactic Defense Force, because she knew the war was far from over. 6 months after the battle, Maria sat alone in her office. It was late, past midnight. She could not sleep. She never slept well anymore. Too many ghosts followed her into dreams. On her desk sat a small case. Inside were 5 preserved alien heads, the Shikari assassins who had tried to kill her. She kept them as a reminder, not of her victory, but of the cost of war. These 5 killers had families somewhere, people who had cared about them. Just like her soldiers who had died, war did not care about the individual stories. It just consumed everyone equally. You should rest, Jenkins said from the doorway. She had been promoted to general and now served as second in command of the entire defense force. I will rest when the war is over, Maria replied. That might be never, Jenkins said, sitting down across from her. Intelligence reports that Vorthax is planning something big. He has been pulling back troops from border worlds, consolidating his forces. He is preparing for total war, Maria said. He cannot let the humiliation stand. His empire is built on fear and strength. We showed that he has neither. Other species are starting to rebel, Jenkins continued. The Krill Collective has declared independence. The Thax Union has stopped paying tribute. Vorthax's empire is fracturing. Good, let it fracture. The more enemies he has, the less he can focus on us. Earth Command wants to know your strategic assessment. Can we win this war? Maria was quiet for a long moment. Outside her window, she could see Arcturus Prime slowly recovering. New buildings rising from the ruins, gardens being planted where battlefields had been. Life finding a way as it always did. The question is not whether we can win, Maria finally said. The question is what winning means. We cannot conquer the Kaldrith Empire. We do not have the numbers or resources, but we can make it too expensive for them to conquer us. We can inspire other species to resist. We can change the galaxy from one ruled by fear to one where freedom is possible. That is a long war, Jenkins said. Yes, it will be. Our children will probably still be fighting it. Do you regret it? Sending back those heads? Starting all of this? Maria looked at her friend. Every day, and never. I regret that people had to die, but I do not regret showing the galaxy that tyrants can be beaten. That is worth any price. A message alert chimed on her computer. It was from Earth Intelligence. Priority 1. Maria opened it and felt her blood run cold. The Galactic Resistance had officially formed. 27 species, all former subjects of the Kaldrith Empire, had declared independence and asked humanity to lead them. They wanted Maria as their supreme commander. This is what you wanted, is it not? Jenkins asked, reading the message over her shoulder. I wanted to save my people, Maria said quietly. I wanted to defend our worlds. I did not want to lead a galactic revolution. Too late for that now. You killed 5 legendary assassins. You defeated the Galaxy King in single combat. You are the symbol every oppressed species is looking at for hope. Maria closed her eyes and thought about her daughter, who she had not seen in 4 years, about her parents who had died in the early days of the war, about all the soldiers who trusted her to lead them well. The weight of it was crushing, but she had carried heavy weights before. Accept their offer, she said. Tell Earth Command I will take the position. But on my terms. We do not fight like conquerors, we fight like liberators. Every species that joins us keeps their freedom. We help them stand up and then we let them walk on their own. Vorthax will never accept this. He will come for us with everything he has. I am counting on it. Let him come. Let him waste his armies trying to crush us. Every soldier he sends against us is one less soldier oppressing someone else. We will be the shield that protects the galaxy while it learns to defend itself. 2 months later, the first meeting of the Galactic Resistance was held on Arcturus Prime. Representatives from 27 species gathered in the same bunker where Maria had fought Vorthax. They wanted to be in the place where the legend was born. Maria addressed them in a speech that would be remembered for centuries. I am not a politician. I am not a diplomat. I am a soldier who has seen too much war and too much death. But I stand before you today because I believe in one simple truth. Every species has the right to be free. Every person has the right to live without fear. The Kaldrith Empire has ruled through terror for centuries. They have told you that resistance is futile, that you are weak, that you need their strength to survive. They are wrong. You are not weak. You are not helpless. You just needed someone to show you that tyrants can bleed. I do not promise you an easy war. I do not promise you quick victory. I promise you that if you stand with us, we will stand with you. We will fight until the last tyrant falls or until the last human dies trying. That is the human way. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We survive. And we will teach you to do the same. The response was thunderous. 27 species pledged their forces to the resistance. Millions of soldiers, thousands of ships all unified against the Kaldrith Empire. But Maria knew the truth. Vorthax would not let this stand. He was gathering his forces even now, preparing for a war that would span the entire galaxy, a war that would determine the future of every living species. In his throne room, Vorthax looked at the reports coming in from across his empire. Rebellions on 15 worlds, pirate attacks on supply lines. His tax revenues were down by 40%. His military commanders were questioning his orders. Everything was falling apart. And it was all because of one human. One general who had refused to die when she was supposed to. He looked at his injured arm, still healing from their fight. The pain was constant, a reminder of his humiliation. Every time it ached, he thought of her. Every time he moved it wrong, he remembered her face as she beat him. Assemble the full fleet, he commanded his advisors. Call back every ship from every border. Empty the garrisons if necessary. I want 2,000 warships. I want 2 million soldiers. I will crush this resistance before it can truly begin. My lord, Advisor Zix said carefully, if we pull back all our forces, we will lose control of the outer territories. Then we will lose them, Vorthax said. I would rather rule 10 systems absolutely than 50 systems poorly. We will crush humanity first. Then we will reconquer everything else. Fear kept our empire together before. Fear will do so again. And if we fail? Vorthax looked at his oldest advisor with cold eyes. Then we die, but we take the humans with us. Back on Arcturus Prime, Maria stood on the hill where she had watched Vorthax's first fleet arrive. Jenkins stood beside her. Intelligence says he is mobilizing everything, Jenkins reported. 2,000 ships. Maybe more. He is risking his entire empire to destroy us. Then we have already won, Maria said. Even if he kills every human, even if he destroys every ship we have, he has still lost. He has had to sacrifice his empire to stop us. That means we were strong enough to make him afraid. Small comfort if we are all dead. Better to die free than live as slaves. They stood in silence, watching the sunset. Somewhere above, in the darkness of space, the largest fleet ever assembled was preparing to descend on them. The biggest battle in galactic history was coming. Maria was ready. Humanity was ready. And even if they lost, they had already changed the galaxy forever. They had shown every oppressed species that resistance was possible. That tyrants could be beaten. That was enough. She went back to her office and sat down at her desk. She pulled out a piece of paper and began writing orders for the coming battle. There was work to do. There was always work to do. On her desk, the 5 Shikari heads sat in their case. A reminder of where this all started, with 5 assassins sent to kill her. 5 heads sent back in response. She smiled grimly. Vorthax had wanted to intimidate her with violence. Instead, he had awakened something in humanity. Something ancient and powerful. The survival instinct of a species that had clawed its way up from caves to the stars.